Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Blokes podcast. Ryan Hassan from the Centre for Healing here, joined as always by Nick, the Sultan of Still Sutherland from Myndfit. Nico, how are you today, mate? For those just listening, Nick's just in bed and he's committed to spending the whole day in bed today.
Pretty much. It's a challenge. It sounds easy, but it's going to be a challenge. So I think I'm up for it though.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's
I'm,
easy.
no, no. It's I'm.
How are you going to get
So
food and stuff?
well, this is the challenge. This is the question. This is so I've got a balcony here. I can order Uber Eats and just get them to toss Subway through the door
Imagine if
over
it
the
landed
balcony.
and it was just out of reach from the bed. You got like a stick trying to fish it in.
It's a good meal to throw, though.
Or you get Daisy, your dog, to go and get it, and then she just eats it in front of you. That happened once.
No,
That happened once. I had a mate over. Sorry, it's going off a tangent here. But Disco, my beautiful puppy, God rest his soul. I had a mate over, and there was a fancy, where I used to live, fancy Italian pizza joint. My mate's like, we've got to, go here. Bloody best pizzas in the southeast. So we order this beautiful, Italian style pizza and everything. Because I'd always give Disco the crust. He loved it. You just sit there next to it for the crust. And I was trying to, we're about first slice in, me and my mate. And the kind of pizza boxes on the coffee table, and Disco's sitting there, and I'm like trying to show off to my mate, showing him tricks he can do to get a bit of crust. And I'm like, Disco, shake my hand. And he went to shake my hand, and the pizza box was hanging just off the edge of the coffee table, and he slapped it, so the pizza box flipped upside down on the floor, and then just ate the rest of the pizza in front of us. And we're both like, yeah, he meant that. Well played.
Yeah.
Shannon, you should feel honoured that you've turned up for one of Ryan's stories today. We haven't had
Yeah,
one for
right.
a while,
Is
listeners,
it
but
a monumental thing, is it?
That was a
it's
short
just
one.
Ryan's tangents. We're going to call them.
Means I'm up and about today.
It's
It
good.
does. I mean, he's fired up, so it's going to be a beauty, listeners. So yeah, I've just I've been working quite hard, and I'm just wanted a bit of a rest while productive day. So just
Beautiful, mate. Well, we can start off being productive by introducing our fantastic guest today.
I can. Shannon Connell from Holistic Hikes. Welcome to the Blokes podcast. How are you?
Good, mate. Good. Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. I say this every episode where we have a guest, but I'm excited. But I am excited to have you on because our businesses are doing a collaborative sort of weekend. We're joining forces, coming together to run a mindful men's weekend retreat just for blokes and Hass. We've spoken about this on the podcast. Is it possible for blokes to hang out in a healthy way without beer and toxic masculinity and all that sort of stuff? So Shannon and I are putting on a weekend. We've had to reschedule it. It was on Father's Day, but we've had to due to lockdown. So we're coming at it again strong in December. But Shannon, what's your business, Holistic Hikes? Do you tell us a bit about what's going on there?
I'll give the try not to simplify too much, but holistic hikes. So obviously we have a hiking component to the business, which carries on day hikes, half day hikes, multi-day hikes, men's weekends like we're doing as far as workshopping. We also incorporate yoga and hiking days as well. The holistic side of it encompasses nutrition, mindfulness, general health overall, which affects your whole entire life. We pack all that into wrapping it up on the day, being mindful, present during the hiking scenario, instead of trying to go from, just point A to point B, enjoying nature, which is amazing in itself. It's already perfect. We can't improve that. But what we do try to add to it is bring that mindfulness, the presence, awakening the senses, and getting everyone grounded and really enjoying it and coming out of that hike well and truly more refreshed and more at ease and calm than what they may have just going for a walk themselves.
It's a great point you raised there, mate. And you said going from point A to point B, and Hass, I think we've spoken about this before. I went on a walk with Em once, and instead of going 6 kilometres, to a 6K walk, we only did a 3K walk. It took us exact same amount of time, but we went really slowly, and we stopped and actually looked at a trunk of a tree and saw the moss on it, and saw the little critters crawling around, and saw some fungi, and saw all this, and so we actually immersed ourselves in the experience on a deeper level. And we've spoken about my octopus teacher documentary. He just went to the one spot over and over, and compared to just racing from here to there and just skipping over everything and just not being oblivious to all the amazingness around us. So it's awesome that there's a company out there that is aware that we can do that and is helping people to achieve that and experience that.
It makes me think of even when I was in Thailand and we were getting around on the scooters as opposed to being in a car and everything here.
I thought there was a frog ninja story come up here, but okay.
Nick, just shut up. But even it's not walking, but it's slowing down and you're kind of more connected to the environment. I remember on pretty much every trip, I might have Tommy on the little baby seat in front. And if we saw this giant, cool tree or something, we'd go off the road up on the dirt next to the tree, touch it, much more connected. I also have a really close friend, shout out to Milosh, who the last probably year or two, he's got really into bike riding, mountain bike riding. And, he's lived in the southeast of Melbourne for, 30 years or so. But he said, mate, it's like I've rediscovered the environment that I've spent my life in. It's just this different experience when you're on a bike and you're more connected to the environment around you.
Yeah, it's much the same. Yeah, the pace is like that, and the bike trails all the way through. Northern Victoria are amazing. I was lucky enough to be asked by a friend to do a really big bike ride through a lot of that 400 kilometres over a few days. We'll try to do as quick as you can, but the scenery that you see, that you would never go down a dirt road that was just a cut off to another forest, and the little dirt track, and struggling through some of it, but slowing down as well as you get super present and coming back to that motorbike riding. One of my favorite things that I used to do when I was younger was motorbike riding, but it was you become way more present when you're on a bike, purely because I think you need to focus more. So it takes you straight out of your head and into what you're actually doing right then and there. One, because it's slightly more dangerous, but two, you're exposed. And so you do see things a lot more. So I 100% agree with, those increment levels of focus and the things that you get to see. You're
also not going where you're looking. You're not looking at where you're going. You're looking at where you are. I think when you're slowing down, you put one foot in front of the other, and it's I had the same thing when I was living in Thailand. It was, I purposely didn't hire a car or get a motorbike or a scooter. I bought a push bike or I walked, and because I just really wanted to take my time and incorporate a bit of physical activity into my daily routine as well.
But what a beautiful little line you just said there, Nick. That's not looking at where we're going, but looking at where we are.
I'm woke as fuck today.
You're present in that bed. You're so present in that bed.
I am present in this bed. Hey, Shem, we got some potentially exciting news that Myndfit might have a property up near Agnes Water in Queensland. So we might have 40 acres up there. So might be running some retreats up there and hiking around the hinterlands just off the Great Barrier Reef there.
Oh, amazing. What a great opportunity.
Nick wants to just go that there's a little hill on the property, and Nick wants to hike up there and put his flag in it and call it.
I've changed the name of it, Has. I realised there was a bit of ego involved when we spoke about
it. Mount Nicholas, just a little bit of ego involved.
A bit of ego involved. And I've slept on it. I was a bit excited.
Is it what Mount King Nick now?
Mount Lord Nicholas. I'm going to become a Lord of Nicholasville. No, it's going to be Mount Myndfit. So it'll be
Mount Myndfit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and we'll just put the Myndfit flag up there and wave that around, and so we'll have to explore getting holistic hikes up there and getting some people together and a good crew and cruising around and checking things out.
Looks like a beautiful spot up there. Shannon, how long have you been doing holistic hikes, and what kind of led you down that path of starting the business?
Great question.
So me and my wife Amanda, basically together, going on a few adventures, always outdoors, pretty active people, and it was kind of one thing led to another, just the activity, and then just the want to explore together and see a lot more. of our state and our country and travel. And so we started off with our first hike on the Great Ocean Road. Pretty keen and probably overconfident on what we were going for as far as the impacts of a heavy bag and knee joints go. So, it doesn't matter how much you can squat, those impacts over 3 days actually can take its toll. So
how heavy would those bags be? Just an estimate.
They used to be heavier. So we've gotten wiser and smarter, and all our gear choices have really honed down into what you need, not what you want, going into the packs, because you don't want to carry that excess.
It really helps you to practice minimalism, doesn't it?
It does, absolutely. So, food and water are the two things you care about, and, some sort of comfort at the end of the day. But if that's just a shelter, then that's just a shelter on the multi-night hikes.
We had the same thing in the army. It was 25 kilo packs plus rifle plus webbing plus ammunition plus water. And when you first turn up to the army, you're like, oh, look at all this cool stuff. I'm going to put heaps of packs and heaps of pouches on, and I'm going to fill them all up. And you get 10k into it, and you're like, fuck this, especially in Darwin heat, and you're just trying to strip it all off, and you'll learn very quickly.
Yeah, very quickly.
Less is more. Less is more.
Yeah, less is more. So we started on this Great Ocean Road hike, and tore through, and the 100 kilometres approximately over the hike, and there's the camping locations, and they kind of recommend between 10 and 15 k's between each of these campsites. So normally it's done, if you do the whole thing, it's done over 7 days. We decided that we'd do it in 2.5. And so we
have you seen My Octopus Teacher? Have you seen just experiencing? It sounds like you.
This is a decade ago, so we've come a long way since that.
It sounds like you made. So
it was a good benchmark for our overconfidence on that, but we got it done, and we did enjoy it, and we got a lot of great stories from it. But so we had the big first day. We got to our first organised camp way too earlier than what we thought we would. So we decided to press on to the next camp, which adds on between another, I think it was about 14.5 k's to the next campsite. We ended up arriving at dark, having to do a river crossing because we didn't check the tide times, and the high tide was coming in. Ended up facing a whole bunch of pregnant cows on one of the dairy farms you've got to cut up to one of the campsites. So we're scaling up a wall instead of a path. Got to the campsite that we didn't book, and there was no campsites left, so we ended up sleeping on top of the hill, roaring oceans, which was amazing. So we had our own spot, and it was one of the most beautiful sunrises and sunsets ever. So it was well and truly worth it. It was difficult. Smashed out the next day, which was about 45 kilometers.
Pause there for a second, mate, because I'm just curious. That adversity is character revealing. Right, and it's going to reveal the character of not just the people, but the relationship that the two people are creating. So what was revealed to you both in those moments of darkness and wet, and when things weren't going your way? Did what the relationship was tested? What came out of it?
I think the relationship was pretty good. I think at the river crossing, we were having a laugh, pulling all our gear off, going through it at high tide. Obviously, still a little bit worried, didn't know where camp was. It was getting dark, so we had this this inside sort of feeling. But we were there supporting each other all the way through that. Getting to the end, setting up the tent, a little bit of frustration, but when people setting up tents, it's never any fun. There's always that saying. Sorry, what I said.
Flat packing at the moment.
Yep, and then and we were just hungry too, so it was all about the hangry at the end of it after the tent was set up, and then I think we just chose the first night.
So there's a bit of hangriness. There's a bit of hangriness. There's a bit of anxiety, the uncertainty, the unknown. It's dark. The time pressure. So it's a beautiful mental exercise. It's like the pressure starts getting put on, and that's when it starts revealing. When we're shaken, what comes out of us, and so it's a beautiful thing to experience, I reckon.
The image that I had as well, tell me if I'm right here, Shannon, but when you said I had to face a bunch of pregnant cows, I imagine there was like a fence and these pregnant cows were like, thou shall not pass. And you had to like fight a whole series of them to get past.
Not quite.
No, okay.
In my head, they were like, "Oh no, you didn't. Oh no, you weren't." There's like all these pregnant cows, like
We're from the ghetto, are they?
With sass.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally.
Sassy pregnant cows.
Sassy cows.
Nuh-uh.
No, not quite. No, there was a normal farm pathway with a farm gate, and there was a steep hill, level ground, size of a car, and then straight back down again. So we had to climb up the side of the mountain, the hill, around the outside behind the cows, and then come through. There was probably 15, 20 on a skinny little road. And so it was still a little bit worry, but I like mine
and Ryan's version better.
I'm running with that.
Yeah, I'm running with that. We'll edit your bit out, and we'll just run out with sassy cows. And, thou shalt not pass, sassy cows.
Yeah.
So Shannon, it sounds like you obviously did this first hike, maybe bit off a little bit more than you can chew, but you made it through. And that
he hasn't gotten to day 2 yet, has
he? Oh Jesus! All right,
because I interrupted. So he knocked over day 1. You set up camp. You had beautiful ocean,
beautiful
sunsets and everything. And sunrise. How'd you go the next day?
So we packed up nice and early. Beat the sunrise. Took off for another walk to the section where we're going to have breakfast, which was called Milanesa Beach. And so when we come down into this valley, probably about an hour away from where we camped, there was this valley running in away from the ocean. It really peeled right up and you couldn't go any further. And we saw this little cabin just up at the end, and it was just a beautiful sight. This stream running through this beautiful grassy land, 2-hill landscape on the other side that opened up to the beach. And so we sat there and had our breakfast, and oats never taste so good when you're hiking and carrying pack. Food just grabs you grab every bit of flavour when you're eating out and camping. You really couldn't care what you eat as long as you've got something. But we had this breakfast and this coffee in the morning, and it just lit us back up again because it was just one of those most beautiful spots where we're completely on our own, and we were just soaking it in. So that sort of spurred us on for the next day. And this day was going to be a bit of a hard climb. There was a lot more elevation that we had to do, a lot more up and down, leading into the forest a bit further. And so we just trudged through that day, just trying to make our time. We were not slow. We were trying to go as quick as we could, maintain a pace to obviously hit our benchmarks that we were getting to camp. But even then, through that day, we had our legs under us and we were steadfast, and we sort of took that day on. And that was a great one. The day was tough, but we were sort of warmed up for it. The last day was the real challenge as we come back out to the 12 Apostles, where our knees and our hips and our bodies had just sort of started to give up on us a little bit. Sort of, a couple of hours in, the food wasn't doing what it should be, and we started to crab walk and walk sideways. And I think Amanda lost 2 toenails.
Shit.
At the end of it, and my knee started to play up a little bit on me. Not that I have any knee issues really, but it just didn't like it. And so we sort of hobbled out sideways like a bunch of crabs to the 12 Apostles to meet where our car was, and we were very happy at that moment, that's for sure, and happy with the achievement as well. It was once it's all done, the pain's gone and the memory remains.
I love it. I love the stories where there is that adversity, there's a trial and tribulation, and they leave the deepest imprints. I reckon they leave our minds are drawn most back to them. If that was just a really pleasant hike and there was no issues, there was no pain, there was no discomfort, there was no nothing, I don't know, you probably wouldn't even be talking about it, wouldn't even pop up in the memory bank. But because of the depth of it and the struggle and this and that, it makes a great story.
It does. And it felt like you were back there when you were describing it, Shannon. The sunset and the sunrise, the roaring of the ocean, the oats and the coffee. Because that's the thing. Like we've had coffee fucking 1,000 times in our life, but like that one stands out probably so much over the rest because of the adversity you went through, the location you're in. It's amazing.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and it's one of those ones you really love the fact that once you learn that adversity is really good for you and will cement a memory even greater, you walk into those moments, willingly, and you put yourself in front of them, which is, again, this is part of where holistic hikes wrapping around, I guess, to the question, is it started on that moment between just adventuring ourselves and continually pursuing that, which that trip turned into a trip to Nepal for a month, hiking the Annapurnas and going back through Vietnam, and then just journey after journey after that, any hike we could get our hands on, and any little trip, any little location that we could finding the deeper places on the peninsula that we never even knew were about, in our backyard, like your friend said, riding that bike, just searching and hunting for all those locations and those memories. So that's really where it started, was just in a love for it ourselves, and our experience has come from that over the last decade. All the wrongs that we succeeded in doing.
Is a lived experience hiking guide? We're lived experience mental health practitioners, and you've got that lived experience. And I talk to clients about, I've learnt what to do, but I've also learnt what not to do, and I think that's where the most value lies, and that's why the motto of the Myndfit program is discomfort precedes success, and that coffee, it could be the best coffee in the world. It's no difference, or it's probably a lower quality coffee than you could get, but it tasted so much better because it was earned, and it was the what you had to get through to get there made it so much better.
Yeah. I'm very big on earning those treats, earning those rewards, and having them there for yourself, because there's no point going through the hardship or the challenges without having something there, for you to enjoy without guilt.
It sounds like a balanced life. It's like, you can have your cake and eat it too, but you got to earn the cake. It's we can all have a beer, we can all have a hamburger, we can all have whatever, some popcorn and stuff. But if you just consume it and have it, then it's I don't know, it becomes bland and
it loses all value.
It does. It does. That's a good word, Has. Good word.
I was thinking about it's like we were on a mental and emotional hike in our life, and there was great adversity there. At one point you couldn't open your front door. At one point I was a drug addict in a jail cell. But like we got to the end of our kind of journey, our hike, and went, it's worth it. It's worth it if you persist. And then it's like, I want other people to come on that journey as well. And, that's the beauty of lived experience, I think, in any area. It's like, hey, the journey's worth it. This is what's on the other side. Let me try and show you, based on my experience and what I've done, like I said, Shannon, done wrong a lot of the time, how to make that hike, worth it in the end.
And you probably wouldn't change it at all, even though it was wrong.
No.
Even though it was wrong, you talk about the drug addict.
It sucks at the time, but it feels so much better afterwards when you find and then take the value out of the experience. If you and this is where the mental aspect comes into it. And I was asking what was revealed to you in those times of adversity, because if you've got a very destructive mindset and you just whinge and bitch and complain and I hate it and that was fucked and I never want to do that again, like there's no growth in that mindset. Where if you can actually change that mindset to learn and understand that, all right, this is really uncomfortable, there's a lot of adversity here, but I'm going to become a better person for having been through this experience, then it just opens everything up, and all of a sudden you come out feeling more self-worth and self-confidence and self-belief and all these really important intrinsic parts of us. And so it's great that there's a sort of company out there that's helping people to build that just through experience. You're putting this into practice.
Yeah. Shannon, what have you were speaking about, that first hike and what it revealed in you? What have you noticed taking other people on these hikes now, and maybe even more leaning towards the men's side because it's like blokes? What have you noticed in men on these hikes? Maybe what it's brought out in them, what qualities, what maybe adversities it's brought up for them. I'd love to know.
Yeah, so probably one of the last ones, obviously because of the lockdowns and things like that, we had a group hike, and I had I had these two older blokes go to the Wilson's Prom Lighthouse, and obviously he wasn't confident in getting there himself. I think he was 68 of his age, and he brought his son along with him, and he'd never done this lighthouse trip, and so the trip into the lighthouse is 22 kilometres, and then I had a diversion down to the southernmost point, which added another 4 kilometers to it. And he just didn't believe he could do it. And so basically just being there and obviously knowing the track and knowing the trail and having confidence in him and presenting that across, he was able to achieve it. And it was something that he never thought he would be able to get to do. And he wanted to do it before, he got older and older, and he was never able to achieve it physically. So, it brought out a lot in him in that one instance. And then we had a multi-day hike where I had this guy, and he's a little bit older, sort of was really quite comfortable, successful business, really hadn't needed to lift himself, I guess, mentally or physically for quite a while. And he wanted to throw himself in front of another challenge. And so he did that. And again, really not thinking about it and not knowing, what the outcome would be. They're just alive at the end of it, like they've succeeded. And that's the biggest thing, is that confidence that comes out of it is like, I've nailed it. Like I had almost no confidence in myself leading into this, because they just don't know. It's not something that they've done before. So they've thrown themselves in the mix. And it's just at the end, they're alive and full of confidence, and they're just like, when's my next one? Like, I can't wait to do another one. Like, my day hikes are going to be huge now.
You're painting this picture of like a really empowered person coming out the other end of it, which I think is what you're saying, because the version of them that turns up to it has a lot of limiting beliefs, and these would all be revealed to you as an observer. You'd hear all the limiting. I can't do it. I'm not sure. I'm the the lack of confidence, the uncertainty, the insecurity in a person. And when they push through and push through and push through, and with a bit of guidance and assistance from you, then they come out the other side, and all of a sudden their chest is sort of up, their shoulders are back, and they're 4 inches taller than they were when they started. And they're like, oh, that was awesome. Look what I did. And it's such a, that I remember I did, I was, I may surprise you to hear this, but I was a bit of a unit as a child, just a bit of a lost cause, a bit of all over the place. And my grandparents sent me to Outward Bound, up in to do an Outward Bound trip up in Canberra. And it was 22 days in the Brindabella Ranges, and we were doing bushwalking, hiking, canoeing, caving, abseiling, all that sort of stuff. And those moments in your life where you could have gone one way or the other, I could have, easily gone down a terrible path, but because of my grandparents' awareness and love for me, they sort of they stuck me on this bus, and they keep talking about it. I was this terrified face sort of on the bus going, where am I going? And they said I came back a different person. I was standing in creeks with a backpack on, helping people across. I was up at 6. I wasn't smoking. It was character building, but it was character revealing firstly, and then character defining, I suppose. But you've got to understand that you get to define your character in those moments as well.
So true.
Yeah.
Nick and I speak a lot on this podcast about comfort zones. It comes up quite a lot. And a lot of people, we all have a comfort zone. It just varies. And so a lot of people have this zone where they feel comfortable in. And over time, as we go through life, if we don't challenge that comfort zone, it just keeps getting smaller. That's how it works. And so a lot of people think with these hikes, this is kind of what I'm getting. It's like they're looking at something outside of their comfort zone. And when we look at something outside of our comfort zone, we either say, I can't do that, or I don't think I can do that. And so these two examples that you described on the hike, it's like you go into something that you're not sure that you can do or don't think you can do, and then you do it. So you've kind of penetrated and broken through that comfort zone, which is a great feeling in of itself. But I think that really empowered feeling comes from, if I can do this, what else can I do? And that just, it's an opening, because what happens, the comfort zone closes down our life. That's so opening to go, what else can I do? When's the next hike? I'm going to go and, take up this new activity that I've thought about for years. And it creates such more novelty in life again, which is what we all need.
Yeah, nice momentum in using that as well. So, and then you've got every other benefit that comes along with being in nature itself, getting away from the rat race, the busyness, the phone that goes down, the the weight of the phone turns into the weight of the pack, but it's positive. It's not negative. It's not drawing from you. It's actually adding to you, even though it's sometimes you may not want it on. It's building you. And, the other thing I see too is on like day 3 on a 3-day hike, the body's warmed up. It's sort of starting to adapt. It's used to it now. And so the extra amount of presence and awareness, because it's sort of come off their pain and out of their body, and the pack's not as heavy as what it was on day 1. And so then they're just enjoying the whole entire landscape and every step, because one, they are a bit more comfortable in it, but they're immersed as well. So you're seeing that sort of gradual growth from day to day, and then the final outcome is it's a magic part, just to see those grins and smiles.
What an amazing, you said there, you spoke about the weight of the phone, and it's like we think about the physical weight of our phone, and it's X amount of grams, but the actual mental and emotional weight of that device is so vast. It is so heavy on people, and they don't start to realize how heavy it's been until they don't have it. And, I know when I do, detoxes from my phone, and that's what's happening on these hikes. Yeah, by day 2 or 3, you're like, oh my God, I don't have all of this mental and emotional space taken up that was in that little device that's, this big. It's amazing.
We spoke last podcast about the power of the mind, and I think this episode's a nice roll on from that, because it is all about so much of this is physical. Obviously you need the physical ability to get from point A to point B, but the mental component of this is so important. Would you say it's probably equally as important, because you're going to decide whether you can or you can't. The mind, in the military, it was so evident that people's minds would give up before their bodies, or their mind would be the reason why the body shut down. So if you can get that mind really strong, really healthy, really in shape, really, I was a comfort slob, a card-carrying member of the Comfort Slob Club, and that's what got me into my really unhealthy, very dangerous space. The suicidal thoughts, the agoraphobia, all that sort of stuff. Because I kept retreating further and further and further. And what we actually need to do is the opposite. We need to keep going out further and further and further, and expanding and growing. And it's just, I'm excited to do one of these hikes. Hash, we should go and do one together.
I would love that.
It'd be awesome.
Do it.
Shannon, what's your? Sorry, Nick, do you have something else?
I was going to say, and any woke bloke listeners that we may or may not have met, let's put it out there to do a woke blokes hike.
I would absolutely love that. Shannon, what's one or two, just whatever comes to mind, of your favourite hikes of all time?
Wilson's Prom is my favourite place. So of all, and then second to that would probably be the Alpine Ranges. So, but Wilson's Prom every day of the week. It's just such a primal location. You get in there, the change of scenery, beach to inland, the wildlife, the water, the swims, the sand. It's got absolutely everything eaten a bit. Wilson's Proms is where it's at.
I want to do that one then, Nick. Can we get to Wilson's Prom?
In our own backyard. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, a couple of hours away.
So for those listeners overseas, Iceland, especially you, just to let you know, shout out to Iceland. Wilson's Prom, we're in Victoria of Australia, so the southeast corner. So right down the bottom there is Wilson's Prom, where big nature park and all that kind of stuff. So that's where we're talking about geographically.
Haas, why don't you come on the Mindful Men's Retreat? We might have one spot left, I think, Shan, perhaps?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, start of December.
Great. I'll be shirt off by then. Oh, I'll have the backpack and everything, won't I? How long is it? Is that like a day one or multi-day?
Yeah, so they're shorter day trips that wrap up at accommodation, and then Nick's going to do his magical work that he does. So we sort of have a base camp that we work off, and then we head out from there and go and check out some of the northern sections of the Prom, which aren't normally as popular as, I guess, the Tidal River base camp section that's there where the main campground is. And then the southern part of the Prom is where all the best hiking is. You can't get in there unless you hike. So you can't take a car, you can't cheat. You can take a boat around to some of the coves, but it's one of those ones. And generally my favourite ones is that if you want to go and see it, you can't cheat. You can't drive your car, you can't ride your motorbike. You've got to do the work. And those ones are my favourite hikes. The ones you got to do the work, because not everyone's going to get to see it.
Work. That's our favourite catch cry, isn't it? It has to do the work. Hey, we can get you like Simpson's donkey or a Sherpa or something to carry your pack, so you can be shirt off, sun's out, guns out.
Oiled up.
Troy.
Is there any pregnant cows? Is there any dancing cows? Pregnant cows?
No cows on this one. No cows. Plenty of rabbits. If you're lucky.
I've got to break dance fight some pregnant cows.
They're battling breakdance battles just in the paddock, in the back paddock.
Oh,
see you down the back.
move.
See you in the back paddock later on, fool.
Oh God, this is bad.
I'm curious. Hang on, Ash, shut up. Was it always an interest to you to do hiking? Like, you're in construction at the moment. Your sort of main gig is construction.
That's right.
And then you and Amanda obviously met and thought maybe we could start a business and all that. Did you have a background in hiking or just being active, or was this something that came later in life? Or
it was something I think came later in life. With just was more with me and Amanda, and it was just a way to get out together. Really a holistic way to just enjoy each other's time in easy spaces. Financially, there's no real cost just to go out and go for a walk during the day or walk along the beach, and it's very simple. And people love it, and they know that they do, but they just don't always go and do it. So as far as the half-day hikes and the small trips, and then obviously the more challenging stuff where we go to multi-night. That's where we supply all the gear, because not everyone has it. But I guess my first challenge, when I started to shift into this challenge mindset, was when I first signed up and walked in the door. Like anyone would sign up for a large hike, I signed up for a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class, and that was something, martial arts, I'd always wanted to lean into towards, but I just never had the confidence to go and walk into a door, to a gym, to anywhere, to say, yeah, I'm here, give us, let me have a crack. But something I'd always been very interested in one way or another. So that was my first challenge, I guess. And then Amanda and myself throwing that as a team and a partnership. The overnight hikes was there. So no, hiking for me wasn't always in my life. I was very physical, being a carpenter and framer, so nice and fit. But my first challenges was walking in that door of that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu club and taking that on, and then that sort of gave that momentum of that acceptance of the challenge, like you spoke about before, Ryan, in doing that, and ever since then, that day has changed. Probably that's a fork in the road for me, is that one day walking into that gym, and that's kind of guided a lot of the decision and the challenges that I've put upon myself and Amanda and as a team into holistic hikes and into where we are today.
But you had to do that. You had to make that decision. You had to go, I am working through that door. It wasn't just wishing, wanting, hoping, waiting for it to happen, or, expecting yourself to be happy or anything like that. It was, you actually had to instigate this from within and go out and do it. And while you were talking about that, we're very fortunate. We live sort of backing onto Arthur's Seat here, and Em and I have been, because we're in lockdown, we can only go within a 5K radius, and so we've been doing all these exploring Arthur's Seat and all these trails out the back, and all of a sudden we started having conversations about life. We're actually spending quality time together, not just in front of a screen, but we're actually engaged and connecting and communicating and listening and learning. And we come back and we're just like, oh, what are we going to do? And we smash it, and all of a sudden it just has this massive positive ripple effect that just, we just feel closer, we feel happier, there's more intimacy, and that doesn't mean just physical intimacy, but that emotional intimacy is there. So the benefits of simply going for a walk, even for an hour together, is amazing.
Imagine what
a week could do.
A week, I know the connections. I don't want to speak about that, but first,
Don't speak about gear. Don't ask him about the gear, man. You've passed that moment in your life, Hass. Right? You don't need to get on the gear.
Yeah, if someone asked me what kind of gear do you need for a hike, it wouldn't be any survival gear.
You might be seeing those breakdancing cows.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, Shannon. Like, let's say we're doing an overnight hike. What's some of the essential gear you would take? Because I'll be fully honest, I've got no idea. That's why I'm open to it, because I actually don't even like camping. I'm a bit of a glamper, if I'm being honest. So that's why I would actually love to come on a hike where we call that a knife. So Shannon, what's some of the essential gear that one would take on an overnight trip?
Right, so you start off with your pack. You've got to have a reasonably comfortable pack, especially when you're not used to it. So we use Osprey packs. They're really well padded for around the hips and the shoulders. It's one of those things. If your body's not used to carrying it, it's going to hurt. So you don't want anything too rigid. So we start with a good quality pack that's really adjustable. We adjust in height for the length of your spine and the height of the person. So they're all fully adjustable. It's the first thing that we sort of approach when we get on the hike is fit that to the person's body so it's not uncomfortable when you're starting to hike.
You'd struggle with that with Ryan because he doesn't have a spine. So I don't know how you'd adjust it all.
Jeez, that was low.
I know, man. I know that was really.
I felt that.
Yeah, I did too.
Bloody hell.
The door was there. I had to take it.
Okay, we'll skip over that.
I'm gonna mute you.
Yeah, there's an edited section.
Oh, but there, no regrets.
So we start with the pack. We start with the pack. And then we've got our tents. So obviously, having some protection and cover at the end of the day, you want to be able to have a sleep, even if it's not a glamping tent, you want to have something. So again, we choose our tents quite wisely, purely for lightweight. The lighter your gear, the more happy you're going to be on the challenge and the less stressful it's going to be, and it caters for more fitness levels. One person may not care at all and the weight's no problem. Another, it may be a bit more, detrimental to the overall experience as well. So we try and minimize the tent weights. So we've carefully selected and bought really high quality tents to make them as light as possible and efficient and easy to set up. So that's the next thing. The next main component, obviously, you always need water. So that's a given. And then we have our cooking equipment. So we use, there's quite a lot of different cooking equipment out there. You've got your old school aluminium fuel burning systems, which, they're somewhat faultless, but they're big and they're bulky and they take up a lot of space. We like to use jet boil systems. Everything packs into, I don't know if I've got one sitting around here, but I do, in a box somewhere behind me. But they're pretty small. So, they're the size of an Nalgene bottle, about, probably a nice big litre, 1200 ml, and everything packs inside of it. So, again, lightweight, small, efficient, and really easy to use. So, not complicated for anyone else. So, if you're wanting to use any of this gear, this is what we talk about also on the trails. Some stuff that you can go for, cheaper options, money and weight are a big factor in buying gear when it comes to hiking.
How about shoes, mate? What sort of shoes do you run with?
So hiking shoes, I've gone through a couple of pairs. I'm running some Merrells at the moment, which are okay. Before that, I had some Tevas, which really lasted a very long time. I'm not set in stone. It's more about your foot. So it really depends. It's not something that there's a one size fits all, given that it's your shoe, and that sounds cliche, but it's true. So, they have boots for people with wider feet. They have wide fits, longer fits, depending on what sort of hiking you're going to do. If it's going to be deep bush, then you'd probably want something with a lot more ankle support. And a lot more height terrain. So you've got that ankle support. Otherwise, you can go to a normal, I guess, what you might see as a Solomon style adventure runner, and they work great as well. So for general day hikes.
But don't just buy a pair and chuck them on the day you're going to go hiking. You're going to break them in, obviously, and otherwise blisters are going to become a very real factor.
Correct. Yeah, blisters. So, and that's a big thing we check with people on the day, because they can pop up. You could have done 1,000 hikes and wore the same boots over and over again, and just miraculously, you'll end up with a big blister. It's not an experience thing. Sometimes it could just be a little stone that you don't realise that slips inside your boot. and then all of a sudden you've got a really big hot spot, and there's your blister. So we're really big on when we have stops and breaks, we get people to take off their shoes, even if they are worn in. Empty them out, take your socks off, check your feet, chuck them back on again, because there's nothing worse than 2 days later and this blister gets ahead of you, and it can really take away from the enjoyment of the hike. So, we're big on making sure people just keep checking. Preventions is the best key when it comes to your feet.
What are your thoughts on, the really structured, rigid shoe versus, more sort of like your LEMS shoe, where they're more flexible and actually want your feet and muscles to be working? Are you sort of a proponent for one or the other, or neither here nor there?
Being in construction and always having big boots on, I'm used to a big boot, so I don't necessarily need or like anything that's too flimsy. But I do like something with a little bit of flex and bend, because scampering rocks and different locations gives you a little bit more traction, to have that little bit of flex and sort of be able to use your toes and flex through your calves and have that little bit of control. So I prefer something that's basically in the middle, nothing too rigid. It becomes a little bit hard on the calves, I think, when you've got something really rigid. As far as going into the barefoot sort of component and the Vibram arena, it's not something that I've gone into. I prefer that little bit of extra protection. And again, I wouldn't advise anyone, not that it's my profession, but I wouldn't advise anyone obviously going straight out from not hiking and or doing walks to thinking that they can throw on some Vibram barefoots and walking for 2 days with the backpack on. They'll just end up with a broken foot, and they'll just break all their metatarsals and just ruin themselves. It's fairly common. So it's cool, it's great, but it's something you've got to train yourself up to. Your feet have got to get stronger. So a lot of barefoot walking, a lot of foot training before you get into that space where you could probably utilize those Vibram hiking shoes.
You're going to be using muscles, regardless of what shoes you wear, you're going to be using muscles that you don't usually wear. Like most people are 9 to 5, sitting down at their desks all the time, whatever. So, if they go out on a weekend hike or take a week off and do a full week hike or whatever, they're going to be using a variety of muscles that probably haven't been accessed for a while, or conditioned at least. So I haven't asked this, but I'm hoping that you offer a massage service as well. Throughout
Big thumb massage, they call it.
Big thumb massage, there you go. So when we get down there, it's just a bit on the ankles and the calves. Thanks, buddy.
Some deep tissue, no problem.
Me to do it or receive it?
No, receive it.
Okay,
I'm
great.
just trying to make it more attractive. You said you don't like camping earlier, so
I don't really. I hate foot massages as well, so I'm in trouble.
Oh Jesus! Oh God! All right, well, there'll be beer at the end of it, Huss. There'll be beer at the end of it.
Now we've found something that I'm into.
Beer after a couple of days never tasted so good. So
I can imagine.
It's amazing. We're at the end of this Great Ocean Road hike. We stashed, going back a little bit, we stashed some oranges and some M&Ms in the car. That orange, I've never eaten an orange like it today. It was one of the greatest things ever eaten on this planet. So after that amount of time, so if you want to enjoy something so simple, go throw yourself out into the wilderness for a couple of days and make yourself hurt and suffer and eat less, and then come back and enjoy one of those things.
That's amazing. Yeah, what is it? Oranges, Nick? You on your Vipassana retreat? Shannon on his hike?
I had an orange on the Vipassana 10-day meditation retreat. And it was on about the 4th or 5th day, so you're pretty in it and sort of hyper present. And it took me 20 minutes to eat this orange because I was experiencing the orange. It was like pulling it apart and experiencing the juice in the tube, and then that's very sweet, and the rind was very sour. But collectively, they were amazing. This is perfect match, and my mind was blowing. And I'm like, oh, this is an orange. Why isn't every orange like this? And yeah, it's oranges, man. They're good.
I think there's going to be quite a demand for what you're doing, obviously, when lockdown and everything ends, Shannon, because when I think about this whole, what you're doing, you're really meeting some core human needs that a lot of us are disconnected from. Even before COVID and the lockdowns and everything. I think being connected to nature, which is kind of, I think it's being connected and having a respect for the planet that we inhabit. Yeah, it's having a deep respect for the environment. And so many people are disconnected because we're in offices and homes and air conditioning and all these comforts. So we have got disconnected from that. And there's obviously such a disconnection from other people as well, because yes, we can connect online and that kind of stuff, but it's just not the same. And I think you're really meeting these two core human needs of connecting to our environment, connecting to other people on that journey. And like Nick, you said with your walks with Em, like that connection that you guys have on that walk is just, so much deeper than, like you said, at home, both on your phone and that kind of thing. So I'm excited for when we get out of lockdown, Shannon. I think there's going to be a lot of people who want to come on a hike.
Shan, Ryan and I talk sometimes about rites of passage, for young men where we don't have that anymore, which they did in ancient civilizations and whatnot. Have you ever done a specific, just for mid-teenage boys, 15, 16-year-old boys, have you ever done just a hike just for them, designed purely to get them out of their comfort zone, spend a night by yourself in the bush? Have you tried that before?
No, it's not something that we've entertained just as yet. And it was the rites of passage. I was thinking of that exactly when you were saying that you were hanging under the window, being sent away for 21 days, and you're 100% right. It's something that's not really initiated anymore. The young guys, they're at school, year 11, year 12, they go straight into a job. Some people create their own rites of passage by traveling and having their own experiences to some extent. We can push ourselves into our own rites of passage by basically, putting ourselves in the way of discomfort, even though they're incremental rites of passage. We can build ourselves continuously, I guess, into a mature masculine male from that point. But no, the short answer is no, we haven't. And I definitely think it's something that we could entertain once we get out of these current situations and continue to build what we've got and what we're doing.
I want to put my boy through one in about 12 years. So just get it all up and running by then, Shannon, all right?
That could be done.
I reckon it'd be huge. I reckon, running sort of 4 of them a year or whatever, just with 10 sort of 15, 16-year-old boys, it's so important. There's nothing out there for them to do that, and their dads haven't done it.
I wouldn't say there's nothing. They've got the scouts and the camps, and me and Amanda did the Grampians for our 40th not so long ago. And coming through the trails, there was all these young boys in high school hitting the trails with their teachers, doing one of the overnights. Grampians is a really good one because it's quite, unlike Wilson's Prom, it's quite accessible on checkpoints and to the road, so it's fairly safe for that concept. For any sort of emergency evacuation sort of needs. Not that ever happens, but we saw a lot of groups walking through on the Grampians, so that was really, really good to see. And they had some really minimal gear as well, so they were definitely doing it, on a very thin foam mat. I'm not so sure how good the tents were and how light they were and what their setups were run. But they definitely would have had their experience at the same time. And when we were doing it, it was absolutely pissing down as well. So they would have got all the challenges.
Love it.
Well, I don't reckon the Scouts have made themselves very attractive over the years. I don't think they've helped themselves, attract a certain market. When I did the 22-day in Canberra, all we had was a hoochie, basically just a tarp that we had to sleep under every night. And so the first couple of days was spent at base camp, just sort of working up to it, and then off we went. And we had to carry our own food every day. I remember I was like young and just my metabolism must have been through the roof, and I was just punishing food left, right, and center. And got to sort of last day, and I had no food left except for a 2-kilo fruit cake and 2 kilos of peanut butter. And that's all I ate, and it was not a good day after that going through my system. But at the end of it, they got us to spend 2 nights on our own. I think on this hill, we all sort of had to pick a spot, and we all had to set up our own hoochie and just really sit there with yourself for 2 days basically. And I vividly remember that experience. Your mind starts playing games, and what's this and what's that, and you've got to really work through a lot of stuff. So I think adding that sort of element to it, they're monitoring, so sort of sneaking around and just checking in on people, but by and large you're by yourself. So I think adding that sort of element might really give people a chance to see, what comes up when they're by themselves. Creates that self-sufficiency.
Yeah, and there's a confidence in that as well. Having that minimalness and knowing, you can have all the things and have some toys, but knowing that you don't need them. And they're extras. And if they weren't there, it's not a problem. So, being able to be that minimal person with that backpack on, knowing that you can survive quite easily, given that you've got that water source, you've got that filtration, the couple of tick boxes that you've got to focus on. No matter what the scenario is that's about all you need. So it can bring you back to a more of a stoic approach, I think, to things.
Yeah, less is more, and we can do that. I'm just, it's the memory of it's coming up in my mind quite vividly now of I had an orange hoochie, and there was this massive log, and I sort of hung it off this log, so that was creating a wall, and then I had it sort of like I had a pitch sort of hoochie going on, and I remember crawling in there and decked it all out and trying to get my little fire going and making a cup of tea, and it was so raw, it was so basic, it was so caveman sort of style, and it was probably one of my favorite parts of the whole thing, just because it was, I don't know, just the basics of it, I suppose.
Yeah, and look, we're genetically and evolutionally, attracted to those landscapes and that outdoor environment and the natural elements like that. That's part of us. It's just that we move further away from it. So I think it's, and it's our current time. It's our, we're allowed to do this Zoom, and this is great. These things are all great, the way we connect, but making sure we go back the opposite way at the same time whilst we move forward creates that balance of circulating things.
I think
That balance is a great word, because we're all, let's look at it all as a spectrum, and then there's living with nothing in the bush, and then there's all the modern creature comforts up this end of the spectrum. And I think, if you don't experience both ends of it, or to some degree, you're not going to appreciate what you actually have. So you can have the nice car and the nice house and that comfort zone, but if you don't experience all this, that's not going to hold as much value. Or you may even go, I don't need that. I'm working my ass off, working 3 jobs to pay for this massive house and all these cars and all this stuff, where I went and did a week, in the prom or somewhere, and I actually experienced, I feel better with less.
Well, it
So I
creates
don't
less
have to work
attachment,
3
doesn't
jobs.
it?
Yeah.
It's like, because it's like I can have all this stuff over here, and maybe I want it or I don't, but if I don't have it, I know that I'm okay. Whereas most of us have all this stuff, and there's really, whether we're conscious of it or not, there's this deep fear, like if that all goes away, then I'm fucked. And you use the word there, respect. It's really respect for our journey, because we can sit here in the comfort of our home, and because we can speak to someone on the other side of the planet through these cables and shit that's going on. But that's only possible because our ancestors, they had to work the shit out, how to start a fire and boil the water and that kind of thing. Otherwise, none of this stuff would exist. So it's a deep respect of the people who came before us, I believe.
And I think it puts us back, in Myndfit, we talk about the law of nature, that everything's impermanence. And I think, David Attenborough said that mankind or humanity is broken free. We're not in balance with our ecosystem and with everything. We see ourselves outside of nature, and oh, look, there's a tree, there's an animal. Look at that nature over there. Where we forget that we aren't that far removed from the animal kingdom. A couple of chromosomes, and we're back climbing
Well,
trees.
we are animals. It's funny now because we like to
Totally.
make names for everything. And it's like all these Silicon Valley people. There's a thing called like nature or forest bathing now. Like it's a whole
Yeah,
thing, like go and bathe in the forest. Like it's some foreign thing that we're
well,
going to enter.
it's eco psychology and all this sort of stuff, and it's just you know when we can actually strip ourselves back and go there, it's just we understand that we are part of this nature. We are no different really to the tree or to the fish or to the koala. We are part and parcel when we can
A
put
small
ourselves
part.
back in that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very.
but when we can, well, we're having too big a footprint. I think we are for we're not leaving a positive ripple effect behind. But when we can put ourselves back in and live within the law of nature, once again, even if it's only a couple of days a month or something, it still helps keep things in perspective, and we can start respecting what's around us and start appreciating, and when you start valuing it again. And they're very important words that people sort of are missing out on, I think.
I love
Yeah,
it.
correct. And it builds on that social connection. Just being in that nature brings us back to our roots and our primal being, and the way that we treat each other and help each other, and the assistance of carrying someone's pack for them if they're having a tough 5 minutes or the hill's a bit steep. But it brings everyone back into that small community sort of mindset of a common goal, which is, either to enjoy the whole entire trip and get to point B and then celebrate that together as well. So, that nature element really builds a social interaction and strengthens it in a positive way outside of social medias and everything else.
So
and opens
much
up great conversations, just like we're having right now. People become a little bit more vulnerable and talk about their past and unpack a few things. And it's in the midst of, like I said earlier, I didn't create it. We didn't do anything. I'm just using it as a tool. I can't improve it unless it's, there's not enough trees there and we can plant some more. But, the parts that we go into are raw, natural forest, and it's amazing. Yeah, it really is.
It triggered a memory as well from Outward Bound as you were talking then. And I remember I was carrying my pack, but one of the women was struggling. So, I just, once again, this wasn't conscious. I didn't think about it. I could only do this because I was in that environment and in that situation. So I just said to her, "Hey, I'll take your pack." And then I was carrying her pack on my front and my pack on the back, and did that for a few K and just to give her a break in that. But I started learning so much about myself, and I'd seen myself as just a dud, I wasn't just a slug. I wasn't contributing to anything. I was just sleeping all day, and I was just slugging around and doing nothing. And all of a sudden, I'm in this element, and putting myself in a position, or my grandparents put me in a position where all of a sudden all this stuff coming out of me, and I came back learning I'm a good person. I'm kind. I'm considerate. I'm caring. I am of value. I'm carrying someone else's pack. I am of value to those around me, to society, and you know, coming back with that was absolutely priceless.
Amazing. What a gift.
Yeah.
I have in the kind of visual we live in this world now where it's like everyone's just online behind a keyboard going, I'm right, you're wrong, I'm right, you're wrong, and the other person's doing that as well. And that's a form of social connection. But there's also a form of social connection where someone's, they're struggling to get up that rock. Here, let me take your backpack and give you a hand. That's social connection as well. So different, so very different.
It's an old school transition of gift and trade, and I have the plants, I have the vegetables, you have the meat. Let's create an agreement within each other that socially benefits everyone. So it works off that basis of trade-off. So everyone wins instead of everyone trying to stand on top of everyone. It becomes a mutual agreement to work well together, and everyone succeeds. So which is a lot of the times lacking, because we're seeing all of this pretend success out there. So and everyone's trying to jump on top of everyone to get to that top of that molehill, which essentially doesn't exist. There's no top.
No, we're all in this together. Come on, people. All right, I've got to run. Shannon, where can people get in touch with Holistic Hikes? Where's the best place for them to reach out?
At Holistic Hikes on Instagram, holistichikes.com. Amanda at holistichikes.com for the email. On all social medias, jump on the blogs. Amanda does amazing writing on the blogs. That's not my forte, but amazing information that comes out from that really often. And get in touch, connect, and we can go from there. We do personal hikes. If there's anything, individual groups, you want to arrange something that's purely for you and just your group, then we do that as well. So
Love it.
And
Love it. I can't wait.
we'll book you in for the last spot on the Mindful Men's
Book
Retreat.
me in. I'm gonna get the rig, in order. And come December, I'll get some new hiking boots, some new ones, like I've got some already. I'll get some hiking boots.
Second pair.
I'll rock up with Vibrams and no shirt, and you're like, fucking hell, Ryan, for God's sake. Did you not listen to the podcast that you hosted?
Did you not even listen, mate?
You'll be like, where's my Sherpa? Where's my donkey, man?
Yeah, no Sherpa, no donkeys. Worst case, that's me. So.
Oh, God. No, I'm looking forward to it. Shannon, it's been great connecting and chatting with you. And I think it's wonderful what you're doing, much needed in our society today. And I'm looking forward to coming along to one in December.
Awesome, guys. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it, Ryan. Nick.
Thanks, Shane. Awesome work.
Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll see you all next week. Yes, Nico?
Yeah, I was just going to say, you did okay too.
Oh, God, you've been scathing on me today. You're sitting
Good
there
stories,
calling me spineless, flicking a knife. Who are you today?
He's Jocko Willink.
Oh, no, this is bloody McRae Jocko down there.
Yeah. Burpees on the beach with his knife in his mouth.
Oh, shit.
I love
Burpees
you,
on his bed today.
Yeah.
I love you, and your spine is strong, and the fluid within it is golden.
Oh, wow.
All right. Have a nice day, guys.
See you guys. See you
All
later.
right, peace out.
Bye.